Today's art tutorial is all about using Sidewalk chalk. Supplies that I will be using are Sidewalk chalk and an old paintbrush. A harder bristled one is better. If you don't have one, that's okay. Your finger will work just fine too. And a small bowl of water. One of my favorite things to do when I am using Sidewalk chalk is to add water to it in a couple specific ways so that it looks like your chalk has been painted onto the concrete or the sidewalk where you're working. A lot of times when you're just coloring with chalk, you don't get a great coverage, and so you'll still see the sidewalk or the street that you're coloring on. So I have a couple things that you can do to help get a better coverage. It will make your sidewalk chalk look nice and smooth, and a lot of times it makes your colors look even brighter. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you're adding enough chalk to the surface. And once you have all that chalk powder, you don't want to get rid of it. Instead, you want to blend it in and really press it into the concrete. Sometimes you won't need anything else, but just to do this, with several of the colors, you'll find that this gives you plenty of coverage. So making sure you smooth out that dust before you blow it away is one important step. With this color of chalk, I was having a hard time getting a good coverage, so I tried a couple things. First, I got my chalk wet, and that wasn't working very well with this color either. So I went ahead and I got my paintbrush wet and started outlining my balloon and going over all the spots, especially where you could see the white concrete showing through. This worked so much better for this balloon, and the final result was a really nice, smooth looking balloon. You can see how the water just helps spread the chalk particles, and it really pushes it into the concrete so that you get a smooth effect. If you look at the top of the balloon compared to the bottom of the balloon right now, you can tell what a big difference the water is making. So we're not using the water to erase your chalk, which you can also do, but we're actually using the water to smooth out our chalk and help it spread throughout the concrete that we're coloring on. Remember, if you don't have a paintbrush, that's okay. You can use your finger to do the exact same thing, but a paintbrush does help give you a much finer line, but your finger will work great, and I'll show you an example of that in just a second. This is a clip from the flag picture I was creating next to my balloons, but I like how you can see really close, an up-close picture of how the water that I'm adding to the chalk really helps the chalk set into the concrete, and it gives it a really smooth appearance and a painted appearance. And so here I'm showing you just using my finger, not a paintbrush or anything extra. Here is a finished picture of my balloons on the sidewalk. If you'll notice, I added a little bit of extra detail, adding the strings for the balloons and some white streaks in there so that it looks like the light is shining off of my balloons, giving it a little bit of a reflection. And now is the fun part for you. You get to be creative and think of what you would like to draw on the sidewalk. You can come up with something that people can pose with or sit on top of. Maybe it looks like they are swimming in a river on an inner tube, and so you may draw the inner tube for them to be swimming in, or something as simple as I did where they're going to be holding something like the balloons or the flag. I've even seen pictures of that kids have created of a tree, and so it looks like a kid can grab onto one of the tree branches and be hanging from it. If you choose to create an interactive picture like one of these that I did with my kids where you have someone pose with it, the tricky part will be getting a good photograph of it. So you can have an adult help you. I used a small step stool to stand on so that I could get a picture from a higher view. And I had my kids lay down next to the picture and kind of hold their hands like they are holding the items in the picture, the flags and the balloons. And so I also had them lift their head up a little bit so they weren't laying completely flat. That way I could see their faces. You don't have to create a picture like this, but this was something fun and it made it interactive. And if you're drawing in your neighborhood, maybe people will stop by and come pose with it and take a picture as well. I hope you guys come up with some great things to decorate your sidewalks with. Most of all, I hope you have fun creating some sidewalk chalk art. Thanks for tuning in.